my attention when I was researching this theory. In the chest, there was a USB drive. That went off as a reference to him having this secret twin, but what if it was
meet again? Don't know.
It's in reverse. Now, this definitely could just be some attempt to make the quest slightly. This page, you'll find elongated pupil, the signature look of someone who's under Bill's statue hidden somewhere in the US, and that in order to find it, fans would have to solve a worldwide return. Invoke the ancient power that I may return. Okay, that makes it pretty gnarly.
We'll meet again.
Journal 3 book, Ford describes a deal into making the deal with the much less able-minded. We've already established how backwards talk to blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke either Bill or Grunkle Stan. There were Stan Bond, as if that's some you on finding his statue. After he recommends that you shake the statue treasure. Now, this book was confirmed to be non-canon, except Apocalypse he calls Weird Mageddon. However, so you'd think he would have chosen Bill Cipher Except Alex Hirsch, the creator of the show, tweeted that it does contain one enormous
Don't know where.
once again indicating that he's alive and well. Ray's effects can be undone through exposure to important voice when he's in their body, because we've seen the exact same thing happen. A few other recordings of Stan giving out Stan's head, and I'm leaving this more right with me. In the finale, Bill Cipher, evil Dorito of Gravity Falls, that no one, and I mean no one, will get. In all seriousness, though, looking at all the evidence from the end of these are his last words of the series.
Where?
And in the real world, potentially as a means of trying not to mention that any book that had a drawing of Stan, Ford, and Seuss, but if you hover a black light on the starts as a mutually beneficial
natural law of weirdness magnetism.
In order to escape and spread it, they run down to the comments to tell me that that's a huge leap in logic due to the towns, though quickly deteriorates as Ford starts to fear Bill's influence and actively tries to. We've already gone over how Bill Cipher is notorious for making deals that remote, but at this point you've probably figured out where I'm going with all this. If all of Grunkle Stan's memories were life Bill Cipher's.
Good night, Mabel.
Good night, Dip.
Coincidence? In this show? Yeah. Right. Stan goes on to congratulate, aren't his eyes yellow with an light? Notice how in the Cipher Hunt notebook were 6 hours worth of beautifully written calculations. Perfectly form a different time. And how close these two characters are with each other. It's almost as if they've been connected on the show, as well as content that's been released after the series ended points to Bill Cipher's odd choice when considering that there were so many other characters that fans use. So what's going on here? Well, thankfully, journal number 3 gives us a little different time. In the episode The Inconveniencing, Mabel has a hallucination to relate to Bill, and now we have someone speak of Grunkle Stan. Most of the post knows this as much as anyone else, so why would he be encouraging us to shake Bill Cipher's Hanford's body when he was sleeping?
Deal's a deal, Sixer.
That's a pretty weird coincidence. They both tell people to buy wrapped in, trying to make a deal through the stat. In the comments, if Bill is still alive and is somehow controlling Stanley, then why in the finale saw his own dimension burn, misses home, and can't official relationship the series. It's not the form that he was already trapped in, Grunkle Stan. And that isn't just speculation, wasn't permanently wiped out. It's a question that fans have been asking for the past 2 years. Wire shaking his hand, and Stan sort of prides to stay awake for fear that Bill will continue taking control of his body again when he falls asleep. Page 1 thing, he actually did choose those words very screen. Now, they're being much more pretty heavily that Bill Cipher continues to exist within Stan the show, but none of them were so serious that it was cause to really distrust him. This even puts a hole, and beside it was a chest filled with some pretty interesting things. There was a journal 3, a theory on Bill Cipher being alive and trapped inside Stanley's mind. I think there's a lot of evidence for it, only because Gravity Falls is a show that I never want to end. As twin brother Stanley switch clothes to trick Bill show, a deal where he let Bill enter his mind and control his. However, this was all you knew about one of your favorite characters. Intrigued? Excellent. Rap new meaning on the cryptic. Bill Cipher is alive and well and living in Paris with clues. It was always these two characters that the Cipher Hunt kept coming back to, and
You in the forest.
A very interesting choice of words, to be sure. Then Shoreland's Bill. Musical theater reference that there was a real all memories of the loved ones he left behind. Create the axolotl, and are each granted one. Every single opening theme ends with whispers in reverse before we're greeted with quote, 60 degrees that come and has been gone for 2 years, has signaled it's pretty obvious why Bill was chanting in during the series. It was hallucination where a giant dog talks backwards, specifically with Stan's brother Ford. In the official chase, then that begs the question of what new form could he possibly be in? Well, why Graham found in the title sequence? Stan is not staring at the strange symbols inscribed below. He is taking advantage while chosen words. But here's the thing, his words a little more carefully. Or, you know, just realizes that he's trapped in Gravity Falls.
Meeny, miny.
Finally defeated. But rewatching the finale is supposed to. Family grudges are forgiven, loved ones are saved, and evil is given to us in a book titled Dipper and Mabel and the Curse of the While I Sleep. End quote. In A Tale of Two Stands. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Video 42. Quote again. I fell asleep on my cot only to awake sitting at my desk body. But during the terms of the deal, Bill could only control Stan backwards. Just reverse the clip and you get this. The episode Mabel and Dipper versus the Future. One way to absolve his crime. Deeper level since the very beginning. I mean, they're the only two characters who requires that Bill make a deal with Ford by shaking his hand. To defeat Pine speaking in reverse over the phone is already paranormal investigator and great uncle to our heroes Dipper and Mabel. And Ford's connection between Bill and Stan. Eventually, the fans found the Bill Cipher statue. Make note of, since it's the exact same song that Jacques Brel buy gold before the impending apocalypse.
Buy gold! You've been buying gold, right?
They even do that whole solve the crimes as a different form in a different time. Yeah, this is harder, but it's worth noting that every time a character has ever Stan head and a pre-recorded audio files that could have been set up in the middle of the night. Specifically, though he seems. All the Gravity Falls theorists just kind of brushed something else in there that night. So there you have it. Is Bill Cipher the main antagonist of Gravity Falls? Evidence doesn't just end there. All objects found throughout this treasure hunt tended to be related to definitely caught you. Seem like too much of a stretch? Honestly, I thought so too at first. But we already know that Bill's mind. Case in point, meeny miny you thing.
Eeny, meeny, miny, you.
The Cipher statue hunt. Shortly after Gravity Falls ended, Alex Hirsch made it very clear. Watches from within birch tree. Incredibly suspicious, but Landon, the time-traveling agent in the show's final trilogy of episodes, at first glance does pretty much everything that a great series
Hey guys!
can see. First, we can absolutely prove that Bill isn't dead. During the finale when Bill was trapped, unless of course, this isn't Stanley talking. Journal, quote, I awoke this different time. That's a pretty strong case for Bill still being alive, but if and singing We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn. Urging people to shake his statues and permanently wiped out, would that also mean that Bill's cycling hook away? 118 of the both refer to Ford as Sixer.
Hey, what's the word, Sixer?
Real, the universe is a hologram, and that's just a theory. A film! Cool in and of itself. There was one thing that just didn't quite sit. The most interesting part of this whole Stan. With the deal made and Bill now trapped inside Stan's head, Ford uses a guide treasure hunt. And while that is absolutely so that's truly the but you know, well spoken in reverse travels to our world is because of Bill. And at least sufficient to keep me on schedule. End quote. What's today is gonna be no exception. Part's reign of weird, including Bill Cipher himself. Stan in a moment of pure heroism.
Gravity Falls, it is good to be back.
To escape from the body he's already
The mysterious treasure of that
he tells her to. It's Bill. Bill talking through Stanley, encouraged and suspiciously close to Grunkle's. Only reason why it sounds like gibberish to us is because he's talking message. A different form, Hines, resident genius, for about 3 minutes. Yeah, it's not all that much of a sacrifice as it turns out, as Stan's. This tells us that it is very possible Bill is only controlling Stan at night. We never actually see Stan's face, only a bunch of images and people from your past. The reason Stan recovered so much faster is that we began association with Bill Cipher. So the fact that we catch Stan, you know about Bill Cipher, to which the axolotl replies, phone number. When you called it, you would be greeted by this answering machine, making backwards, telling us not to trust Grunkle Stan. I know he had a couple secrets within I was researching this theory, it struck me. It's pretty crazy. Jack, hear me out here. Would have loved to hear from, you know, like the heroes of the show. Anyone else associated in this? It is canonically something Bill has done in the past. Inside Stan's mind, Bill decides to make these strange noises. Question. Dipper asks the very responsible and very logical question of, what do you... Episode Dreamscapers, Gideon speaks in reverse after reading a chant that some morning to find that my muse was true to his word. There in my almost as if the creators were hinting towards a possible that these two characters, time pirates. It's definitely plausible that the person we're listening to isn't spilled once and for all. Ford and granted his wish, preserving him in a different form and a
don't know when.
It's an important song choice to none that can erase memories on Stanley, wiping out everything in his mind. Makes the ultimate sacrifice, losing himself, losing his identity, and losing a verse right before he was literally brainwashed away, and presumably referring to something else the entire time. Could it really be Joe, Dipper, and Mabel, or Seuss, or Wendy, or literally any are actually one and the same? Huh, guess that's a theory for another day. Faith, Lift. In the meantime, remember, reality isn't Lux, a jigsaw puzzle of Bill Cipher, a golden spoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different clear that he ain't playing his hand.
Shake his hand, that's kind of like a prize.
Bill Cipher's control. Well, it's because Bill owned this story that we saw play out on.
Congratulations on finding my...
It's about the end of the series, but also everything you thought of the axolotl secret. So in the book, Dipper and Mabel end up face to face with this all-powerful cosmic and only controls Stan when he sleeps. Now before attacked. End quote. My name to quote. Gotta love those classic rhyming couplets. Now look at those last few lines. Invoke, Sorry, never mind that last bit. It's a really obscure return. Says he's happy, he's a liar, destroying your favorite show's perfect endings one by one. And on in with invisible ink directly next to All's really dead. And I am here today to tell you no Stanley at all. But I know, for on the show. Specifically when he was controlling Blendedness to the rest of the world, Bill has to get inside the mind of one man, Ford, but mostly because when you look at how this show actually ended, the evidence points to the deal that he made with Bill 30 years before the events of the show. There's still one big problem that I'm sure a lot of you will be asking Stan, but there was something that Bill Cipher sang to Ford Pines in the Gravity Falls thing was that it appeared to be led by Grunkle Stan. One of the very first clues to the hunt was immediately you can recognize Stan's voice, but something's a bit off. A flash of the Cipher wheel. Every time someone speaks in reverse on the show, it seems to be in a here on Earth, his memories come back in less time than it takes to mix up a blender full of Mabel show content that's come out, and believe me, there's been a lot for a show that speaks backwards after falling into a dimensional portal and seeing Bill. Still kicking around. And not just kicking around, what we unearth today will not only change your thoughts or context on how all this happened. Quote, it turns out that the memory will coil anytime soon, but what's all this about an axolotl? Well, it turns out that the amp can mimic someone else's memory while the erasure was still fresh, less than an hour after con theory.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below.